welcome back. Today I have an update for my Pan That Palette / Pan in Every Palette project that I'm doing this year. So I have a dedicated Pan That Palette that I'm working on to just make as much progress as possible. If I can finish shades, if I can hit pan on everything, great. It doesn't have to be completely empty for me. And then I have the two other palettes that always have two other palettes going that I'm rolling through, trying to hit pan in one shade from every one of my eyeshadow palettes this year. I don't have a huge eyeshadow palette collection, so that's why that's a pretty attainable goal. I will leave my playlist down below so you can see kind of how I've been doing and what pans I've been able to hit and all that fun stuff. Let's go ahead and begin with my Pan That palette, which is the Sultry palette. This is the oldest eyeshadow palette in my collection. I absolutely love the palette. And within here, I have two really big milestones this month that I'm very excited for. So let me just put some side-by-side comparisons here so you can see kind of what the changes are. So the biggest news I have is that I finished up Pearl, which was on its last legs. This was a shimmery, kind of chunky shimmer champagne shade, which worked really well for me as the inner corner and kind of as a layering shade. If I needed to brighten anything up on my lid, I could always go to that one. But I did finish it, which feels great to have another empty pan in the palette itself. So very happy there, and I've moved on to another shade in my collection to use as an inner corner highlight, and hopefully later on the year I can hit pan on that. That would be really cool. The other big thing that's happened this month is I hit pan in Rose Quartz, which finally happened, which is really great. This shade is one that I really like all over the lid as just like kind of a wash of color. It's this really pretty kind of pinky color, and I just really like it. Of course, the beginning part of this year with January, February, I did a lot of pinky eyeshadow looks. I had other shades that were rolled in that I was focusing on. So I kind of was focusing on those, and then I finally got around to hitting pan on this one, but I still did hit pan, which feels great. And then everything else I've just kind of, gotten more use out of and expanded pan. So I do have notes here of my usage. I use an app on my phone called Counter. I shared this, I think, in my project pan, but I can link it down below. I know it's available for iPhone. I don't know if it's available for Android, but I just have all the different shades in here, and you can just tap, that you used it. I really like the feature at the top. I have it on all, but I can switch it to today, which tells me, which ones I've counted for today, because sometimes I wonder, like, if I've double counted and stuff like that. So I just really like it. It's very easy to use. So this is what I use to keep track of things. So let's go through the different shades in here. So Pearl, I used 9 times until it was done. So overall, since the project began in January, I've had this palette for years, so I'm just really counting from January 1st. I used Pearl 48 times. Yeah, 48. So that was, quite a bit of use, and I already had pan in it, and I already had a lot of progress. I used Pearl in a very detailed manner. So it makes sense that number is pretty high. Steampunk here, this gold, kind of like an antiqued gold. I used it 3 times this month for a total of 17 uses so far this year. I really do enjoy Steampunk on the lid, but also on the lower lash line. I'm trying to reach for this palette at least for 1 shade a day, if not, 2 or 3. But using these shades for lower lash line shades is something that I've been kind of digging into a lot more, because I have some lid shades in the other palettes that I'm working on. So I do like Steampunk on the lower lash line quite a bit. Rose Quartz I used 6 times, and I was able to hit pan in that period. I don't remember how many times until I actually hit pan, probably 1 or 2, because it was pretty close last time. So in total, I've also used Rose Quartz 17 times since the beginning of the year. Next, we have Ember, which I do not have pan on yet, but I do have a good dip going in there. Ember I use in the outer third of my eyeshadow looks when I want to deepen something up. This is kind of my go-to shade. I used Ember 5 times this past month for a total of 27 uses since the beginning of the year. And then over here for Birch. Birch is a nice warm brown that I use in the crease very often. I used it, let's see here, 6 times this month for a total of 26 uses. So that has been, pretty solid progress there. Cinder I used once this past month for the first use of the year. I actually really like Cinder all over the lid, but I just haven't been using it because I've been pulled to these pinks and other shades. And we'll talk about, I kind of have a dupe for this that I'm working on right now. So Cinder is still kind of on the back burner. So just one use. Twig, I've used 5 times. Twig is another matte that's a little bit more cool toned. So either, birch or twig, or I like them together too. I wore them together today for my look and my crease. So I used Twig 5 times for a total of 28 uses this year. Next is Teak. I have not used Teak this year. I already had Pan going into it. A Teak and Ember I would use in the same way on the outer third. So when I hit Pan on Ember, I'll probably go back to Teak. I do prefer Teak over Ember, but my focus is to hit Pan in Ember. So I have that Pan there. Dystopian I have not used. Again, it's just nice to have like this as a liner shade. If I'm ever traveling and I decide only to bring this, I'll have a black and a brown liner shade, but I don't really plan to focus on either Noir or Dystopian. Noir also has 0 uses. So Cyborg is the last shade. Cyborg does not have Pan on it yet, but I have used it twice this past month for a total of 5 uses this year. I did put it on today, kind of in the center of my lid on top of another shade that I'll talk about here shortly. And I really like how this look turned out, a very just easy to go to, like, quick and easy look. So I do think that I'll probably start pairing Cyborg with the shade that I'm using all over my lid a little bit more. That would give me good progress in both palettes. So yeah, that is the update on Sultry. For next month, I don't think I'll have Pan in Ember or Cyborg yet. I mean, Ember, if I really pushed for it, I bet I could, but I don't really like to force myself into panning shades. I've done that in the past and totally have burnt out. So I would say, if I can get maybe like 6 or 7 more uses on Ember to make steady progress, and maybe like 4 or 5 uses of Cyborg, that'd be great. I do want to hit Pan in those 2. They're the last 2 in the palette without Pan, so that is definitely a goal of mine. For the rest of these though, I think sticking to using at least 1 to 2 shades out of here every single eye look, whether it be a crease shade or something on lid or lower lash line, really will make a difference just to constantly be in here. So that's kind of the goal I'm setting, nothing too specific, but of course side-by-side photos still make these updates exciting. So that is the Sultry palette. Let's move into the eyeshadows that I'm focusing on for my Pan in Every palette. So I have 2 palettes on the go right now. The first one that's been in for 2 months now is the Natasha Denona Mini Retro palette. I still do not have Pan in here, so nothing to roll in from this palette anyway. And this is what it looks like. Of course, it's just a beautiful spring, kind of neutrally colorful palette. I've really enjoyed using it. I reached for the greens a little bit in March with, St. Patrick's Day, but mostly I'm focusing on these 2 shades. So this is Galaxia and this is Vintage Taupe. So I'll put up some side-by-side comparisons. So Galaxia definitely has a dip in it. Hopefully you're seeing that there with a beautiful reflection. I use Galaxia 9 times this month for a total of 22 uses since I've been tracking this. And I've also been using Vintage Taupe for my crease shade quite a bit. I'm not going to be hitting Pan on Vintage Taupe before Galaxia. It's just not going to happen, but I have been tracking this. I used Vintage Taupe 8 times for a total of 18 uses. Since I started, tracking progress here. I don't know how deep these shades are, but like Galaxia definitely has a good dip going in it. Galaxia is also one of those shades that's pretty kind of like crumbly. So when I focus my brush in there, I kick up some, powder and it gets crumbly. And then I kind of like try to pick that up and apply that to my lid. I'm sure if I just blew a lot of that kick up off the palette and like just kept digging, I probably could get there sooner. I'm not really in a rush. I do think that within the next 2 months, I'll have Pan. I don't know if it's next month or not though. It just, again, I don't know how deep these are. So we'll see, but I really like using this all over the lid. It's a very quick and easy look. It's also a one shadow look. Like I can definitely just do this. I don't even really feel like I need a crease, but a lot of times I'll just lightly sweep this vintage taupe in the crease and I'm good to go. So I do really like this palette. I'm happy I've been able to explore it more, but it's also going to be staying in for at least another month, maybe 2, we'll see, but that is the update there. And then last time I brought in the Norvina palette from ABH. This is a relatively new palette to me. I got it in December of 2021. So yeah, still pretty new. And this month I really just focused on kind of getting acclimated to the palette. I didn't really choose a focus shade. I did just bump around and try different things out to figure out what I would like, what I don't like, and maybe picking a shade or 2 for me to really focus in on, which I have kind of made my selection. But first, let me talk through it. So I used Soul once. I used Dazzling down here 5 times, which has a little bit of a mark in there. I think it looks more extreme on the camera than it is. Incense, this brown, I used 4 times, but this is pretty similar to Twig and Birch in my Sultry palette. So I was kind of struggling, like, do I want to focus on here and leave those 2 mattes aside? Love is this, matte, like pinky shade. I really like this one. I used it 4 times. It's beautiful, but like, I don't know if I want to go for like that pink of a look every day. Rose Gold, I used twice. This is a little bit deeper on my eyes than how it looks in the pan, so that's been a learning experience for me. And then Wild Child, this pink is a little bit flaky, kind of like Pearl is from the Sultry palette, but I like it as a topper, and I used it 6 times. It's also beautiful on its own, like really foiled and built up. So yeah, just kind of scattered throughout here. I did jump into Passion once as well, just to deepen up the corner. So it's a beautiful palette. I'm really glad I had time to explore. But for my goal, I do want to hit pan in 1 shade in here. So I am going to be focusing on Dazzling and Wild Child, and just whichever one I hit pan in first wins kind of a thing. But Dazzling is what I have all over the lid. And I feel like Dazzling and Cinder are pretty similar. Dazzling is a little bit darker, but I get the same kind of look, like a nice taupey kind of bronze look on the eye. And then, like I said, I brought in Cyborg from my Sultry palette just to tap on top to brighten the center of my eye a little bit. And I really enjoyed how that turned out. So that is one that I can see myself using very regularly. And then Wild Child, again, I feel like I can tap it on top of anything and it's beautiful. I've tapped it on top of golds. I've tapped it on top of like silvery looks. So I like having this as another focus shade just because I know it would go with pretty much anything. I don't think I can use it as an inner corner highlight every day, but I do like it when I do a pink purpley look. It just kind of ties everything together. So these are going to be the shades that I'm focusing on for, hitting pan in this palette. I do know that the shimmery shades tend to get dips pretty quickly, just from working in the Sultry palette and all that. So I'm looking forward to seeing some actual like physical progress. I don't think I'll have pan in either of them by next update, just because I've only used them, a handful of times, not even 10 times each yet. But finding out which shades I want to use was like a very important piece of this because this is my newest palette in my collection. So I have been able to explore. I really like playing with this palette. I definitely can see the hype around it. It's so easy to use. And I like that we have these like really rich neutral mattes at the bottom to like play off of. It's just so stunning. So very happy to keep this one kind of going. I don't have anything to roll in today because I will be keeping both of these in. And I just kind of alternate, try to use them each throughout the week when I do my eyeshadow. So yeah, we'll see. I do think though that the retro palette will be rolled out before the Norvina. So that is the update for my palettes. I do have an update for my pan percentage. Let me just pull up my notes here quickly. Okay, so for my pan percentage, last time I had a pan percentage of 15.96%. So I had a total of 119 eyeshadows in my collection, and I had pan in 19 of them. So this update, I had some, progress going along the way. So I did hit pan in rose quartz, which brought me up to 20 out of 119, but then I finished up pearl. So I lost that pan, but I also reduced the number of total eyeshadows. So I'm at 19 pans again, but I have 118 eyeshadows, if that makes sense. So now I'm at 16.1%, which is amazing. Honestly, just breaking through 15 feels great. I would love to get to 20%. I don't know if that'll actually happen or not, but we are well on our way. So yeah, officially 16.1% pan percentage in my collection, which feels really, really nice to know that if you were to open up most of my palettes, you would be able to see usage. And that's kind of why I like doing this pan in every palette, so that if you were to open up any one of my palettes, you would see a pan at the end of the year. And that's kind of my ultimate goal. So that is going to be it for my update today. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know how your eyeshadow projects are going, or if you have updates that you've recently posted, let me know how I can go find them to see, the progress that you've been making. I really like panning eyeshadow. It definitely is intimidating, but once you start to hit pan and see those progress, I feel like it's kind of addictive. So I really enjoy it. Pan That Palette is one of my favorite projects to watch in the project painting community. It's just really satisfying to see. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.